It is one of the least known stories in American history. It is the story of Black achievement and accomplishment. Against all odds, American Blacks have built their own institutions, families, schools, churches, and businesses. Against all odds, American Blacks have created great art and science, fought heroically in every American war. Against all odds, Black men and women have worked endlessly to secure their own freedom and equality. The untold story of Blacks in America is a 350-year saga of incredible achievements. This is that story.
Hello, I'm James Avery, and welcome to the 8th and final episode of A History of Black Achievement in America. Now, the final 35 years of the 20th century were the most tumultuous for America and Black America in particular since the Civil War. Ironically, at the same time, they were also the times of greatest opportunity and achievement for Blacks. While some Blacks rioted in America's inner cities, many others served with distinction in Vietnam and the two Gulf Wars. Still others found a new identity in Black power and the Muslim faith. By the end of the millennium, large numbers of Blacks had moved into the suburbs and expanded the Black middle and professional classes. Against this background of conflicting forces, a Black man became the most famous person in the world. Blacks became mayors, senators, secretaries of state, and commanders of the armed forces. Most remarkably, all Americans began embracing an African heritage that had given so much to the United States of America, making it the great nation it had become in the 21st century. Muhammad Ali's achievements in boxing, personal courage, and as a peace spokesman could not have been greater.
He appeared on the cover of Time magazine 3 times. He was the most recognized person on the planet, better known than the president or the Pope. Muhammad Ali did things no Black man had ever done before. He raised boxing above the gutter sport it had become, and in the process, used the ring as a stage to rise above race and petty politics. That was the genius of Muhammad Ali. He was born Cassius Marcellus Clay in 1942. At the age of 12, he joined a youth boxing league in Louisville, Kentucky. 6 years later, he won an Olympic gold medal in the light heavyweight division. In October 1960, Ali fought his first professional bout. It was during this time that Clay took the study of boxing to a whole new level with his lightning hands and agile footwork. He invented skills of generating power and speed that the ring had never seen before. He once said that he spent 10 years studying the jab. These new skills projected the image of an unbeatable fighter who was better than anyone else who had ever entered the ring.
What's he gonna do? Kiss my feet at the beginning of the 4th round or wait till the fight's over?
He was also charismatic and witty, often punctuating his fights with poetry, describing his opponent's defeat.
Oh, man, you jive, and I told you, why don't you put yourself on a limb like me?
His new skills would be put to the ultimate test in 1964, when Clay was scheduled to fight the invincible Sonny Liston. To everyone's surprise, he won in 7 rounds, becoming the heavyweight champion of the world.
I am the king of the world.
Hold it. Hold it, you're not that pretty.
I'm a bad man.
Wait.
I shook up the world.
The heavyweight champion of the world, Muhammad Ali.
In a rematch in Lewiston, Maine a year later, he defended his title when he sent Liston to the canvas with the famous Phantom Punch.
Shot on the chin. Jersey Joe Walcott. Sonny cannot move.
And now here come Cassius, the exact contrast of everything that was representative of the Negro image. He said he was the greatest.
Shortly after the 1964 fight, black Muslim leader Malcolm X convinced the young boxer to join the Nation of Islam. Clay dropped his slave name and became Muhammad Ali. From that moment on, Ali would have an unshakable religious commitment to peace. In the 1960s, the Muslim religion empowered many black males and gave rise to the theme of black power. Muhammad Ali was the most prominent American to become a black Muslim, and his affiliation inspired others to join.
All of the odds were against him. He upset the odds makers. He won. He became victorious. He became the champ. They knew that as soon as, if people began to identify with Cassius and the type of image he was creating, they were going to have trouble out of these Negroes, because they'd have Negroes walking around the street saying, "I'm the greatest."
15% of blacks would become black Muslims, promoting black strength and self-reliance. At the 1968 Olympics, Tommy Smith and John Carlos raised black-gloved fists, championing black power. Ali's commitment to peace would be put to the test in 1967, when he was drafted in Houston, Texas. Once again, Ali startled the world by refusing to serve on the grounds of religious beliefs. He said, "I ain't got no quarrel with them Viet Cong." Ali became the first national figure to speak out against the war in Vietnam, a sentiment that would drive President Lyndon Johnson, a champion of civil rights, from the White House. In retrospect, Ali had been right. The war had cost the nation a proper conclusion to the civil rights movement of the 60s. Because of his refusal, the government stripped Ali of his title, fined him $10,000, and sentenced him to 5 years in prison. An appeal kept him out of jail for the next 2.5 years, as his case wound through the judicial system to the U.S. Supreme Court. In 1970, the court reversed his conviction. Ali returned to boxing and won the heavyweight title twice more, taking it from George Foreman in the famous Rumble in the Jungle in 1974, and then Leon Spinks in 1978. In 1981, he retired from boxing. Then in 1996, enfeebled by Parkinson's disease, Ali once again showed his unique connection to humanity when billions of people watched awestruck as he made a saintly appearance, lighting the Olympic torch in Atlanta, Georgia.
No one did more to bring segregation to an end than Thurgood Marshall.
The 60s were a time of great upheaval and change in America. One of those changes was that for the first time, the U.S. began to recognize the excellence of its black community, which it had kept downtrodden for so long. But it was also a time of change in the black community itself. A change brought on by using more effective strategies for dealing with the hundreds of years of inequality. The leader of one of these strategies was Thurgood Marshall. Thurgood Marshall was born in Baltimore, Maryland on July 2nd, 1908. He graduated from Pennsylvania's Lincoln University in 1930 and received his law degree from Howard University in 1933, graduating first in his class. He returned to Baltimore and practiced law there, specializing in civil rights cases. It was during this time that he developed his Marshall Plan. It was a plan to use the courts to accomplish what politics had so egregiously failed to do. Becoming the chief of the NAACP's Legal Defense Section in 1936, he was able to put this plan to the test. Over the next 20 years, Thurgood Marshall argued 32 cases before the Supreme Court, winning 29, including his greatest triumph, Brown versus the Board of Education of Topeka, Kansas, in 1954.
For the purpose of arguing the school segregation cases.
This case permanently ended the doctrine of separate but equal schools. Marshall's brilliance, both as a lawyer and as a strategist, brought him to the attention of John F. Kennedy. President Kennedy named Marshall an Associate Justice of the Federal Court of Appeals for the Second Circuit in New York in 1961. Then in 1965, President Lyndon Johnson appointed Marshall Solicitor General of the United States, and in 1967, at age 59, Marshall became the first black justice of the U.S. Supreme Court, a position he held for 24 years. During his time on the nation's highest bench, he was known for championing civil rights and protecting all Americans, men, women, children, prisoners, and the homeless. He was also a great defender of the First Amendment's freedom of the press and speech. Interestingly, Marshall rejected Martin Luther King Jr.'s nonviolent protests as rhetorical fluff that produced no permanent change, and Malcolm X's talk of a separate black nation as racist craziness in the multiracial society America had become. Marshall sought legal solutions that provided equal rights and opportunities for all Americans based on integration. After his death in 1993, the Washington Afro-American magazine eulogized him with these words: "We make movies about Malcolm X. We get a holiday to honor Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. But every day, we live with the legacy of Justice Thurgood Marshall."
TV is the essence of American pop culture. After 100 years of white and black culture slowly merging, television in the 20th and 21st centuries accelerated the process and provided a glimpse of what a colorless America might look like.
Television, one of the most powerful purveyors of values in the world. And at last on TV at the beginning of the new century, it was possible to see blacks simply as people whose skin color conveyed no sense of other in America. But of course, American television didn't start that way. In the 1950s, blacks were portrayed as fools, as on the Amos and Andy show, and as servants, such as in Beulah. But by the middle of the 1960s, this began to change. From 1966 to 1969, Nichelle Nichols played the character of Uhura on Star Trek. In 1965, Bill Cosby co-starred with Robert Culp on the hit series I Spy, where he played the character Alexander Scott, winning 3 consecutive Emmys as Best Male Actor in a dramatic television series. Race issues were not profiled on I Spy. Blacks were heroes and villains with little or no racial overtones. By the late 60s, blacks starred in their own shows. From 1968 to 71, Diane Carroll was featured in Julia, the story of a single mom. Later, The Jeffersons, a spin-off from All in the Family, showed blacks as middle-class Americans trying to move up the ladder to success. In 1984, Bill Cosby and Felicia Rashad starred in The Bill Cosby Show, which showcased a black doctor and lawyer raising their children in a middle-class neighborhood. But perhaps the most dramatic event to change the relationship between whites, blacks, and television was Roots, the saga of an American family, a television miniseries that aired on ABC. In 1977, Roots became a national phenomenon watched by nearly 130 million Americans. The series was based on a book written by Alex Haley a year earlier. In 1965, Haley had wondered if he could verify the stories his grandmother had told him as a child. After 11 years of research, he found that indeed he could. As a result of the book and miniseries, Americans found it fashionable to learn the complete history of their nation, and blacks could take pride in their lineage as traced back to Africa. By the 1990s, Americans, particularly young Americans, could watch shows on the major networks where blacks portrayed families struggling with everyday problems. In other shows, blacks became part of ensemble casts depicting lawyers, police officers, and doctors, from time to time employing their ethnicity in creating dramatic situations. At the same time, Robert L. Johnson's cable network, Black Entertainment Television, expanded to reach 74 million cable subscribers with 95% recognition of the BET brand in the black market. In 1991, BET Holdings Incorporated, BET's parent company, became the first black-owned company on the New York Stock Exchange. At century's end, Viacom purchased the company for $2.7 billion. But Johnson's real genius lay in changing the attitude of venture capitalists, showing that it was economical and even hip to invest in a cable television channel targeting a black audience. Then the success of his company and others such as Oprah Winfrey's Harpo Productions stimulated other blacks to form their own companies. At the beginning of the 21st century, marketing all products to blacks had become an economic necessity. Television has indeed provided a view of what a colorblind America might be like.
In the final two segments of this episode, we shall see how two black men rose to the pinnacles of their careers, one in service to his country, the other in the most intellectually challenging area of human endeavor, astrophysics.
In 2001, Colin Powell became the third most powerful man in the U.S. government when President George W. Bush appointed him Secretary of State. Like some of his famed predecessors, John Foster Dulles, Dean Rusk, and Henry Kissinger, Powell helped shape the ever-changing U.S. foreign policy against a backdrop of global terrorism and mounting world instability. How have black intellectuals viewed Powell's leadership as Secretary of State?
I love Colin. I have absolutely nothing against Colin. If we'd followed Colin Powell's advice, things would have been a lot better.
In 2005, Condoleezza Rice would succeed Powell as Secretary of State for President Bush's second term. The son of Jamaican immigrants, General Colin Powell was born in New York City on April 5, 1937. He attended City College of New York, where he participated in the college's ROTC program and received his commission as a second lieutenant in 1959. Later, he continued in college and earned a Master of Business Administration degree from George Washington University. His success was nearly storybook in nature. While a small percentage of urban blacks raged in America's cities, Powell, along with the largest group of black soldiers to fight in the U.S. military, served 2 tours of duty in Vietnam. In 1972, he won a prestigious White House fellowship, which gave him access to Washington's corridors of power. He would spend time in and out of Washington for the next 17 years. Then in 1987, President Ronald Reagan appointed Powell National Security Advisor. In 1989, President George Herbert Walker Bush appointed him America's 12th chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff, a position he held from October 1, 1989 to September 30, 1993, under both President Bush and President Bill Clinton. In the integrated military, Powell had worked his way to the very top.
When Powell was appointed Secretary of State, of the United States, I think there was a kind of mixed feeling in black communities. On one hand, we had never seen someone move up so high in the military and moving through all sorts of positions, related to the military. National Security Advisor, Chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff, and then finally Secretary of State. So on one hand, it was an incredible achievement. On the other hand, it seemed there was also a sense of disappointment in that, looking back as early as the '96 election, many thought Powell would be a candidate for the president. So in some ways, there was a sense that he had taken a demotion by being Secretary of State.
He has explored the most intriguing questions of modern science, written books with the provocative titles Merlin's Tour of the Universe and Just Visiting This Planet. And he was the first black occupant of the Frederick P. Rose directorship of the New York Hayden Planetarium. Neil deGrasse Tyson has become a superstar among scientists. This was demonstrated to all when, during his 2004 PBS series, Origins, he made astrophysics fun and understandable for everyone.
Mars built up a thick atmosphere and supported liquid water on its surface.
He is one of many black Americans who has decisively shown unparalleled excellence and accomplishments. Accomplishments that started with the first black who arrived in colonial Jamestown in 1619. Early on, there were people like Anthony Johnson, a slave who worked his way to freedom, becoming a wealthy landowner in the process. Others, like Samuel Francis, Crispus Attucks, and Lemuel Haynes, were entrepreneurs and patriots who participated in the creation of the new nation, the United States of America. Then, as the country's population moved westward, Jean Dusable and James Beckwourth opened up the vast unexplored interior of the continent, establishing settlements and blazing trails for newcomers. In the 19th century, the country grew and so did its white and black populations. During this pre-Civil War period, black heroes and heroines, Frederick Douglass, Harriet Tubman, and Sojourner Truth, formed the core of the abolitionist movement to free their own people in the South. While in the North, blacks created their own churches, schools, and universities. And men such as Benjamin Banneker and James Hewlett began a powerful tradition in the sciences and the arts. As in the Revolutionary War, black heroes emerged from the Civil War and the Indian Wars. But after Reconstruction, blacks were once again on their own. Courageous leaders emerged from the Jim Crow era to answer the challenge. Booker T. Washington founded the Tuskegee Institute. Ida B. Wells Barnett publicized the horror of lynchings, and W.E.B. Du Bois founded the NAACP. At the same time, blacks distinguished themselves in every field. In particular, George Washington Carver and Granville T. Woods in science and invention. Matthew Henson in exploration. Scott Joplin, Ma Rainey, and Duke Ellington in music. And Satchel Paige, Jesse Owens, and Joe Louis in sports. In the second half of the 20th century, Thurgood Marshall, Martin Luther King Jr., Rosa Parks, Malcolm X, and Muhammad Ali took various approaches to achieve civil and human rights. At the beginning of the new millennium, it is undoubtedly clear that black Americans indeed helped to shape and make America the rich, prosperous, and great nation that it is today. In the 21st century, Black Americans persevere in lending their leadership strengths as well as their creative and intellectual talents to the nation, as the many blacks who, under unimaginable hardship, had done before.
Throughout this series, it's been demonstrated over and over again that no race is inherently inferior or superior to any other, and that black achievement and loyalty to America should be cherished even more because they were done against all odds. Thank you for watching this final episode of A History of Black Achievement in America. I'm James Avery.